Gut. Gut.
I don't know, I saw nothing.
I really don't like this. I'm really disappointed, I have to say. Hoffentlich.
Okay, very warm welcome to Capital Sports 3.0. I am your co-host for this evening, Alan Moore. And what we predicted, well, almost 2 years ago, a year and a half ago now, has come through. We said that he might not get through to the end of the season, that is 2022, 2023. However, we've just found out that Mr. Jurgen Klopp had actually told the Liverpool board in summer 2023 that he was quitting. They asked him to stay on, and he stayed on until the end of this season. Of course, he is going to leave this summer. He still has some years to run on his contract, but as we said at that time, contracts are important for him, but something is worth a bit more. And of course, that is the peace of mind. And of course, he said that he is tired as well. Welcome straight in, Andrew Flint, to the show. Andrew, give us your quick take on this before we have a little sideways look at Jurgen Klopp's very strange departure from Liverpool. Why is he going, in your point of view?
Well, you could argue, in one sense, he's achieved about as much as he possibly can at Liverpool. Well, he has. He's won the European Cup. He's won the Premier League. I mean, he's done an incredible job. There's no point trying to pretend otherwise, whatever anybody's allegiances are. And I'd say that job goes well beyond the actual success. He's united a fan base. He's inspired them into the, dreamy yesteryears of everything that Liverpool apparently is so famous for. And I guess there just simply comes a cycle in a motivational sense for any manager at any club. What next? What's the challenge? Tired is a word that seems to be central to all of this. And you can see in his demeanour over the last couple of seasons or so, he's complaining even more than he usually does when anything goes slightly against him. He's become snarkier. When he came in, he was rock and roll, he was fun, he was engaging, and he still remains an incredibly sociable and a very, very good speaker in a second language, I might have had. But there's the elements of frustration. You can sense them there even more than an average season might be. And I think, to be honest, he may well have been waiting for his good friend Pep Guardiola to leave Manchester City earlier, which was rumoured the last 2 or 3 years. As long as Pep Guardiola stays there, Manchester City have their management set up in place, it's virtually impossible for anybody to topple them beyond a one-off glory season. So a new challenge would be the polite way of putting it, but for tiredness, let's just put it this way. There are a lot of ways that somebody can be tired of managing in a position, and I think there's probably more than one battling behind the scenes as well that probably contributed towards this.
That's it. I mean, when you look at his record with Liverpool, I mean, it has been tremendous. He's won a league in, of course, 2020. He's won an FA Cup. He's won the League Cup as well. He's won the Community Shield, of course. Obviously, he's won the Champions League once, been in the final twice. European Super Cup, World Club Cup, and he's been a runner, of course, in the Europa League as well. In all of that, you still kind of had the feeling that people were expecting more from him because of the success in a relatively, kind of a very difficult, for Dortmund, difficult league, of course, for them in Germany. But of course, he had two German titles, of course, won a double with Dortmund, of course, in 2011, 2012. But the reaction to it, of course, has been the one that has astonished us the most. And these are a couple of examples that kind of, I think, are where we're looking at, because it seemed that the whole Scouse nation went so overboard. And this is the next part of it, because we look at him quitting. He's not going to retire. He has more to do. But this reaction, a lot of people sneered at it and laughed at it. Of course, I joined in as well. But there is a bit of nuance as well. But this is like one of them. I think people find this very, very funny. This is somebody who, while he was taking himself seriously, saying that he's cried all morning, and that, this is like, I love you, Jurgen, we are Liverpool, you never walk alone, and so on and so forth. That was just one of many. The next one, I think, is the funniest of all. I think it's one that actually disturbed me in a way. And I did put myself into the situation. We we're chatting about this earlier on. This was he went down to his lad's school. He's 8. He had to be there to tell him in person. He sprinted from the car towards a classroom. Now, immediately, when you think of an adult male sprinting towards a school, jumping out of a car, going like that, he's going to be dragged down by security because I'm sorry, that's just, it's a bit nonsense. Like, we locked eyes. He'd already found out, just pure sadness in his eyes. It just killed me. And I dropped to my knees, sunk my heart out. He rushed over to me and hugged me with all he had. And he was crying his eyes out too. How do you explain something like this to an 8-year-old? How do you make it better? He's home now. Took him out early. We're both just a mess. Now, in all fairness, you'd probably want to call true. There has been a huge overreaction. There's been some real lulas online talking about it, but that's overreaction, Andrew, isn't it?
I think we have to be fair for a moment. I mean, we have to put personal allegiances aside. You can't really underestimate quite how impactful a departure like Klopp's is. There's no point. We can laugh at his reactions. We can laugh at his complaining about the length of the grass or whinging about something that everybody has to deal with. But he really has been. I wouldn't quite. Well, Liverpool fans would say iconic. He has been a almost era-defining manager for them, and for an 8-year-old especially. I think it's a bit unfair to laugh too much at something like that. If I was 8 years old and all I'd known was Klopp, I'd be crying my eyes up too, quite understandably. In fact, if anything, I'd be concerned if you weren't completely gutted. Because how do you follow a manager like that? For Liverpool to follow Klopp, for them, is virtually impossible. When Ferguson retired from Manchester United, I mean, that's a very different matter because he retired and we knew it was coming along. You know what? Honestly, I don't remember, but probably not because we knew it was coming for so long. It was, well, he first made his announcement almost a decade before he actually retired. He was persuaded to stay on, and it wasn't a particular secret. And I suppose, in a sense, we knew Klopp was going to leave in the not too distant future, but that will be a more painful departure. And I think the reaction online, what's the first thing you do when something massive in your world, not in everybody else's world, that's not relevant. You're the fan of a club, it's in your world. When something like that happens, you might, in hindsight, regret pouring such an emotional, reaction out. But that is what the reaction would be. And I think it's a little unfair of us to laugh too much. I mean, it's funny when you're a Manchester United fan and you watch the pain of another club, but look, it is painful. It is.
I agree with you. I mean, I kind of was thinking about you today, and I think of what, like, when Stephen Kenny left Dundalk, for example, who went to the Irish under-21s. Was I upset? Not really. That's my club, but I've worked in football, and that basically your time is up. Your time is up, and when you're working, for example, with a footballer, and he's there in the club, and you become kind of friends with him to a degree, and then he has to leave. For example, I just saw with male footballers, he has to leave. When you have to tell him that we're selling you or we're letting you go, we're not renewing your contract, that's hard, but at the same time, it's simply business. So maybe I've kind of been hardened to that as well. And I've spoken with a couple of people inside Liverpool as well. And I'll come back to that in just a moment. But first of all, this is something that I think that a lot of people who are non-Liverpool fans and who are laughing at the reaction, a short while ago, they were oohing and eyeing over the next situation. I don't know if you see this, Andrew, but I urge our viewers to go look up this young man online and look when he went to visit Liverpool. It is pure promo. It's pure saccharine. It's very Americanized. But you know what? I don't give a damn, because when you're watching this next clip, we're not going to play a clip. We'll just put the reaction to Klopp leaving from one person. You'll see this at one moment. This is a young man, Dara Gorman. He's from Monaghan in Ireland. It's on the border with Northern Ireland. And he went over to visit at the request of the club. He went over to visit Liverpool. He met the players. Again, we hear, like, it's been viewed over 70 million times. You watch this, it's very hard not to cry. You really are feeling very emotional. This young boy, he's special needs. He went over, and you could see the depth of humanity and decency in Klopp in his whole clip, and you really there's something deeply wonderful about him. Again, and I'm saying this as a person who has met Jurgen Klopp. on a few occasions. And again, as I said it before, he is a winner. He's a sociopath. He wants to win. But there's also a certain degree where the humanity shines through. And I do believe that that's what's happened just now. But with this, again, when you see this, when people watch this clip, everybody, I know guys online, in Twitter, for example, who are, look those Liverpool fans, Liverpool idiots. Boys, you're the ones who sent me the direct link to this clip and say, watch this, it'll break your heart, it'll tear your heart out. So there is that decency there about Klopp. On Klopp leaving, Andrew, I want to say just one thing. I spoke with somebody who's working with Liverpool Football Club, who I've dealt with for many, many years. And I said that the pressure's come on now for results that Klopp for a long time, as you said, he's been very antsy, he's been very upset. He usually has a 7-year itch, 7 years at the club and he goes. But at the moment, he feels demoralised, not just tired, demoralised. And this person who works closely with Klopp said that he doesn't feel Liverpool is his club anymore. Now, he kind of said it and didn't. And I wonder, is it because there are people there like Pep Blinders who are trying to undermine him? It could be that. Could it be that, Andrew?
Well, if that is his emotion to say something like that, it would have to be something behind the scenes that it's clearly not the city or the people. Because, like, I'm really pleased you highlighted that. Of all managers, I mean, I think fans like to see personality, real character. And it doesn't matter what you think of Klopp. He has got character. He has got empathy with the fans around him and the causes that they stand for. So for him to say, to feel Liverpool isn't his club anymore, that can only mean the administrative side behind it, the staff of, I don't know which staff it would be, but it would have to be something significant. I suppose Pep Blinders is an obvious target to start with, simply because we all know he has ambitions to be, well, I don't want to say it in a negative way. Who doesn't want a bit of limelight, a bit of, personal gratification for himself? He perhaps wants to be in a more senior position. And I mean, he's written books, for crying out loud. How many assistants, backroom staff do you know who have written books about their careers? So I can only assume it is a disenchantment with the setup around it, which is a shame. I look, it has been gut-wrenching to be outclassed for the last few years by Liverpool on the pitch, certainly, and in recruitment and many other ways. But deep down, if every fan, Manchester City fan, every rival fan, you want your rivals to be strong, so it means more, so it matters more. So when you do win, it counts more. To see that ripped out, and I'm not saying Liverpool are suddenly going to die and collapse. Of course they won't. There are enough people around the club to ensure that won't happen. But it's a shame to hear that from Klopp. I would have been happier if he'd gone out in a blaze of glory, lost the Champions League final, for example, and said, you know what, I've given it the best crack I can get. I want to give somebody else with more energy to take it on now. That actually would have satified me as a non-Liverpool fan more.
But that's not him, unfortunately. And there is that kind of a very deep. I want to say religious. I know I said 2 years ago or a year and a half ago it was a religious side. It's a mix of Lutheran and Catholic. It is that, but there's something deeper as well. So we'll move on for that very quick. Just back with our next one in just a moment. Actually, no, we're actually just going to go straight through to it. So this is one that occurred, and I think we all need to have a look at this. This, of course, is Vince McMahon. He is facing huge charges right now of sex trafficking, and this one where he had forced to resign after he had defecated on a female colleague's head. Now, there's more to that. This is a woman that he'd been in a kind of a quasi-relationship with that he supposedly then sent off to have sex with her men. There's a huge amount in this. There's a huge amount behind this. But also, we discussed this before. We had a discussion this before about the whole situation surrounding this when he first stepped down. Now he stepped down again because he just sold the whole company across. Hunter Hearst Helmsley is taking, well, he's there with The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. They're kind of shepherding the WWE through right now. What's your initial reaction to this whole situation? Because, of course, he's accused of sex. I mean, it's a huge situation that he's accused of. Sex trafficking is this woman who he'd been in a relationship that he brought him on board. He had paid her off. We reported that he paid her off supposedly 3 million. He only paid 1 million of it, and for last year hadn't paid. So then she, of course, went to this woman, Janelle Grant, has gone to court with it. It's not going to touch WWE, but this is Vince McMahon's reputation ruined forever.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's something that I think Vince McMahon, the name, the brand, and I think you have to say the brand because, look, on the business side, he has been quite remarkably successful. This is the way to bow out. Well, it is damaging long term. I think it's slightly distasteful the way that he is going out swinging and punching as if to say, look, I mean, from what I've read, he's claiming this is all complete fabrication. I mean, look, we know that people love a story, love to generate clickbait headlines. It goes a bit far to say that everything could be completely fabricated. There must be something here for this to be big enough for him to be ousted, because this is not a man who is who just gives up. This is not a man who is incapable of self-promotion and protecting his own interests. So if he, I don't like saying this, but if he's allowed this to happen, as in allowed him to be ousted, he's protecting the reputation of the brand that he has built up, then there sort of has to be a fairly significant chunk of truth to this. So I don't know how he can extricate himself from this with less grace than he's done. That is disappointing, I think.
Yeah. He has stepped down. I see, like that she said he had trafficked her off to kind of lure other men into to fight, including Brock Lesnar's named. There's a lot of people named in this suit that it's going to be difficult for him to get out of. People like, I mean, Ronda Rousey, for example, she's come out and said that that nothing has changed. She's still in charge. This is a joke. So people are wondering, what does Ronda Rousey have to say, or does she have anything to say at this moment? Of course, Ronda Rousey, who had started in the WWE for a short while, she wasn't a huge impact. And of course, this whole case broke out ahead of the huge show this weekend. So I mean, this is this past weekend. Sorry. So this is the situation. But of course, he's never been too afraid of going a bit over the top. I mean, this is one we with Rikishi and The Rock holding. Of course, The Rock, who now is in charge of a lot of the operations WWE. This is where he had to kiss Rikishi's butt. Well, there was this segment he said, "Kiss my butt." This was the Attitude Era, and his face then got forced into Rikishi. I think it's actually a cousin of The Rock himself. And of course, then this was the one where Shawn Michaels being forced to kiss Vince McMahon's well-muscled behind. Ultimately, it's not going to do anything bad to the brand because people are still going to watch it. Does it affect your view of Vince McMahon as one of the greatest ever sports promoters of all time?
Well, look, I don't like to sort of separate these things because you cannot. It is the same person. But as a promoter, as a businessman, very few people would be capable of building up what he has built up. Does it change my perception of him? Well, yes. I mean, it's a distasteful, to say the least, situation we find yourself in. I'm going to throw this out there and tell me what you think of this. As you mentioned, as you've shown and demonstrated in those two examples, two of many over decades, this is a disgusting, horrible situation. Everybody is talking about. Everybody is talking about it. I'm not going to say he's engineered this entirely for publicity, attention, but let's be honest, if nothing else, the WWE or TKO brand, controversy, drama, and talking about it, that's about the one golden thing that they want. If it wasn't engineered, it will be exploited. It will not damage the brand.
Exactly. They know no limits. We've seen also
what's going to happen next. Who's going to take over? What are people going to say? Will this cause a split? Oh, we've got to watch the next event. Oh, by the way, I've got to pay my $20 to go and watch it. Well, done.
Very true. Very true. The next quick one we're going to have a look at, because just like finished off the show now. Of course, we couldn't get Eastern Cody. Unfortunately, we just can't get her onto the show right now, but she will be on us this coming week. Next one, a huge set of results, of course, in the Australian Open this week. And Aryna Sabalenka of No Country, she won the title. Daniil Medvedev, also of No Country, lost the title. And of course, this is him quite disturbed with Yannick Sinner from Italy, becoming the third Italian male to win a Grand Slam singles title, senior singles title, of course. Lifting the crown, 22 years of age, amazing fitness. He came back from 2 sets down. Of course, it was a shock for Medvedev. 1 minute. How bad a loss was this for Medvedev, Andrew?
It's one of those really gut-wrenching, damaging defeats in a sense, because the first 2 sets he was absolutely dominant. It was almost a surprise that he only won 6-3 both of the first 2 sets. He should have really won both of them 6-1. He broke. Sinner looked all over the place, and it was a mirror image, I think, of Medvedev's semi-final, where he also was lost for the first 2 sets against Zverev, and he didn't magically turn it around and suddenly explode into life. He just simply grittily dug his feet in, and that's what Sinner did to him in the final. So effectively beat Medvedev at his own game. That, I think, is the most damaging part. The thing about Medvedev is he never looks tired. He is a quite incredible battler. Most players think, how on earth do I beat this guy? How do I just grind him down? You can't grind him down. You just simply have to be grittier and grainier than he is. Sinner, what a performance for him. It'll be hard to come back from Medvedev.
Yeah, I think like he won a US Open 2 years ago, I think it was. But again, as I mentioned on the screen, this is the second time he's lost an Australian Open final after leading by 2 sets, and you could just see he was traumatized when he lost the 3rd set. You can see him when the 4th set was going. You could just see in his eyes, he was like, "Oh, good God, it's not good." Some also not good news for the Brits in Down Under as well. Neil Skupski, a friend of a friend of our show, Arthur King, who actually knows his dad. He's from Liverpool as well. Neil Skupski, he went down in the mixed doubles final. In the women's doubles, it was Mertens and Hsi from Taiwan. They both actually won the mixed doubles a lot, and the women's doubles, so it's a double for her. In the men's doubles, of course, it was history being made by 43-year-old Rahul Bopanna, I hope I got that right, who came out on top with Rohan, sorry, not Rahul, excuse me. Bopanna, they came out beating the Italian Gio, and of course, as I said, Sabalenka from No Country, obviously Russia, she came through against her Chinese opponent. Now, we're going to stay on tennis right now for the moment. This is our last kind of idea for today. So just have a look at this and tell me what you think should have happened. And see, do you notice what happened?
Elle n'a pas touché? Oh, c'est incroyable.
Je crois que non.
Oh, bah.
Ouais,
Oh là là, c'est incroyable comment elle est passée.
Avantage, Tokyo.
Alors là, très honnêtement,
oui.
Très honnêtement, là, je suis assez d'accord avec lui. Des très mauvais gestes également qui nous avaient échappé. Ah oui, effectivement.
Il a peut-être fait des gestes.
So if you notice at the end, that's a 13-year-old tennis player. This is in the Le Petit A or Le Petit A's tennis tournament, which of course has produced champions, who has had champions who've gone on to become greater champions, like Rafael Nadal and Martina Hingis, and Andrew Murray, of course. Well, he was a finalist 20 odd years ago, and Novak Djokovic was also around the same time as the quarterfinals as well. This is a huge tournament. Kim Clijsters won it, Michael Chang won it. So this is a massive tournament. So this young lad, a Swedish boy, 13-year-old, kind of got very upset against his French opponent. Decisions have been going against him. He was very, very annoyed, and he basically went up and, the boy, William Rapakis, he showed the fingers to the umpire and was disqualified. He deserved a warning or maybe a point against him, but an immediate disqualification, that seems a little bit harsh on a teenager, on a kid. Or is it teaching him a lesson, Andrew?
Well, I just want to actually check something. From that clip, it looked like something was thrown from the stands onto the court. Did I see that? Or was that not what he was complaining about? Because he seemed so stunned. It didn't seem like he was disappointed at losing a point or something, but
No, what was the ball was played, it was out, so it was used to be out. There were, according to the commentators, even the French commentators, were saying that there were 3 or 4 calls that were going against him. He won the first set, was trailing in the second set, but was playing very, very well against an older French boy, and the referee was the umpire was giving everything against him, so he basically reacted to that and looked to appeal it. Something wrong from the side, I don't know.
Well, he kept signalling to the stands, then pointing to a very specific spot in the tram lines, and that's
where the ball had landed.
Like a reaction
the French player's ball had landed. So that's where the ball had landed. And he was saying that's where the ball had landed. So he said the ball was out.
His reaction to me didn't look like somebody who was simply complaining about a bad line call. I mean, that would be more sort of guttural. He was sort of really seemed to be explaining something quite specific. It looked to me like he was annoyed at more than just the odd decision or two or many decisions going against him, because it looked like a moment of shock or surprise. If it was built up over many incidents, many line calls, you would just be getting angrier and angrier. He just looked like, whoa, what the hell happened? I mean, if it's a kid, kids are different. They are driven. I mean, especially at that age. How many times have we said before, the management preparation for becoming a superstar has to start earlier and earlier and earlier nowadays. 13-year-olds, well, that's old by youth standards. If you're showing any promise by the age of 8, you probably have to start being prepared for these things. And part of that preparation for me has to include an understanding of the pressures they're under from their coaching staff, from sponsors at that age are a factor. We have no point pretending we're not. I mean, look, it was an extremely direct, very, very poor reaction. Not that it wasn't justified in his mind, but it doesn't matter whether it is or not. You simply can't do that. I think a warning, well, if he wasn't giving a warning before being disqualified outright, then that's wrong. Perhaps he should have been given a warning.
He wasn't, Andrew.
Should have been.
Yeah, he wasn't.
Well,
I mean, that's the whole thing.
I mean, if it had got to that point, yes, to be honest, I think he should have been disqualified, because that's such an outright show of defiance and rudeness. But I think what should have happened also, I'm not saying the umpire is blameless. Perhaps he should have given a warning earlier. And if he's still reacting that way, then he's got no excuse for being disqualified later. But to do that and just have a warning then would be not enough.
The umpire called the tournament supervisor, and they discussed what to do about his misconduct, and of course he was disqualified. The whole thing was that it was 40-all, score was 3-0. So this was vital. The ball had gone out; it was clearly out. Umpire called it in. Okay, again, it was a number of bad decisions going against them, especially in that second set. Rapakis then smashed his racket on the ground after being disqualified and broke down in tears. Again, he's a 13-year-old boy, and this is a huge tournament. Andrew, on that, do we expect too much of our kids playing sports? So young and younger.
Undoubtedly. And I think the worrying, perhaps scary point is, I don't think there's literally anything that can be done about it in one sense, because, well, on what sport as a whole places on people in terms of expectations, temptations, opportunities, that's just a runaway train. You're not going to be able to control the exploitation of what is the most simple, direct, mass market appeal vehicle sport. People watch it. What needs to happen is you need to understand, it needs to be understood and accepted. Look, this is what sport is, whether we like it or not. It is going to be approached and taken over and dominated by TV companies, by contracts, by sponsors. So preparation and education and understanding has to happen earlier because kids are being approached earlier. They're being exposed to opportunities earlier. I mean, I remember when Martin Hingis won Wimbledon at the age of 17, and we're like, 17? I mean, okay, Boris Becker, God knows how many years before that. Those were real standout moments. Now, a 17-year-old is just 17. That doesn't really mean much anymore.
And I think we've just lost Andrew right there. And he's dead right, because, of course, Martina Hingis, when she came in, I remember seeing her playing her very first pro match, her very first pro tournament on the European Tour. And again, she was only just a very little girl. Now, on that note, we're going to go away for this week. We will be back during the week with some more Capital Sports, a few little catches we need to do. And, of course, we'll have a very special interview with a man who loves to visit major tournaments with his family and has made the most of it for many, many years already. Met him here in Moscow, and this is a story you really want to hear. So that's going to come up next weekend as well. So on that note, I will say take care of yourselves, take care of each other. And of course, we'll see you next week for some more Capital Sports 3.0.